All right, folks, welcome to another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman, he's Carl Jones, and we are finally done with the winter sports season. Everything is in the books, but first things first, Carl. This podcast has turned you into quite the social media star lately.
Man, I guess you could say that, man. I mean, shout out to Von Miller for deciding to break that news and sign it on the dotted line right when we were recording. But yeah, I had no idea that was my facial reaction when it happened. I just know that I had the Zoom up and went on Twitter. My phone was blowing up a little bit and saw the news. And apparently my face made a reaction that caused some headwaves in Western New York for a couple of days. It was all fun though, and it's definitely been a whirlwind the past week.
Yeah, definitely. I was at the Von Miller the press conference afterwards. I went down there the next day, and I had a couple of people, a couple of the media members, laugh, have a good time about it. Everybody's having a good time. Carl made it his profile picture for a couple of days. It's back now. The unintended consequences of this, we both gained quite a handful of Twitter follower. Carl has basically catched me in Twitter followers off of my tweets. So my social media success has directly translated to Carl now almost being more popular than me. He was tied for me for a little bit. I'm like 3 ahead of him right now, but I've been here for longer, and now Carl now I got to start begging Carl for retweets. Before it was, I just posted this story on Thomas boys basketball, I'll give Carl a retweet. Soon it's gonna be Carl. I need you. I need your tweets.
Oh man, ain't nothing like that. Hey, that's nothing of the sort. It's funny you said that though, because that was just one small glimpse of, I guess, Twitter fame or something like that. And you were the one that created the tweet. And like I said, I didn't know that was my face. Like, I didn't know that was my reaction until you posted it. And I was like, oh, that was my reaction because, oh man, because I knew.
Because I said in the thing, I was like, I'm gonna gif the hell out of this thing. And because when I saw your, if you've seen the click, you see I'm talking about Thomas hockey. I'm going on, I'm making my points. And then I see your face. I just go and it's not because I couldn't think of what to say. It's because I'm like, did Carl have a dog that died or something, or some crazy stuff going on in the world or something like that. I'm like, something happened where no matter what it is, we are interrupting this podcast to hear what Carl Jones has to say, because it was that, wow.
I guess Von Miller coming to Western New York. I would say that's pretty big news and pretty shocking, to say the least.
That would do it. Yeah. So if you did miss that somehow, I do have it pinned on my my Twitter feed right now at the top. We'll see how long that stays there. But yeah, it's we'll see. I'm anxious to see if it translates into an actual Bills GIF in this season, because it's fun in the moment right now. But it'd be great. It'd be funny if this actually became a surprised reaction meme of some sort. We will see if it stands the test of time. I did see one person. It might have been something about Russia or Ukraine, something surprising that happened, and somebody linked that thing. So I got it one time. We got one thing where it was actually used in a non-Von Miller purpose. So we will see what happens if Carl's eyes have any legs. We will see for sure. But now, getting all the important stuff out of the way, it's time to talk about some high school sports. We had our basketball state championships. The main event for Section 5 here were the girls. We talked before, we could have gotten 2 or 3 state championships. We certainly had the horses to do so. We came away with one. Bishop Kearney girls basketball getting the Class AA crown. Their semifinal game on Friday, they left no doubts about it with Corning Painted Post. That was a 94-42 win. Corning Painted Post made it there off of quite a bit of an upset, so they were trying to do the same. No such luck. And then in the championship game, it was Bishop Kearney beating Baldwin out of Section 8 by a final score of 63-57. Bishop Kearney kind of not in control for most of this game, but none of us could go to these games for various reasons. But Bishop Kearney kind of always seemed to control. They were actually down by 3 after the first half, but they really turned it on in the third quarter. They were up by 2. They were down by 3 after the first quarter. They were up by 2 after halftime. They kind of pulled away with a 22-11 scoring margin in the third quarter. Then they kind of held on at the end. They really had a substantial lead early in the fourth. Then Baldwin chipped away. But it was, the Bishop Kearney Lady Kings getting it done for their state championship, first state title since 2013.
Yeah, and I think that was so impressive about this team is how young they are, and they'll probably be back next year as well. I mean, obviously Kaya Good,
and maybe the year after that.
no, for real, yeah, no, like for real, like Kaya Good obviously is the engine and makes that team go, but their star player this week was Anaya Rowe, who's a sophomore. So it's like, I don't want to just say Section 5. I want to say they just put the state of New York on notice and saying they're here to stay. So a very impressive, not just weekend, but entire season for the Lady Kings. So shout out to them.
Yeah, they had a couple losses in the regular season playing some out-of-town competition. It geared them up for this run for sure. Even when you think about it, the toughest test they got in this state playoff run was in the sectional championship game against Fairport. That was probably their toughest test. Baldwin certainly gave them a run for their money in the championship game, but that Fairport team, they're also going to be back. So we talked, in some of these semifinal games in the States, is that the de facto state championship game? I think next year there's a very strong chance the state championship game happens in Section 5 between Fairport and Bishop Kearney.
Yeah, Fairport forces back. Yeah, you're right.
And you do have to, Kaya Good does leave. They only had a 6-person rotation this year, and they got into some foul trouble. They played with they had 4 players play with 4 fouls, basically. For that fourth quarter there, 3 or 4 players, something like that. They were in a lot of foul trouble. So, their young players are going to get better. I'm sure they've got. They always have some people waiting in the wings, so I'm sure they're going to have some more players coming up. But congrats to Bishop Kearney on a state championship game. Moving down to Class A. We knew it was going to be a good battle between Tappan Zee and Pittsford Mendon. It certainly was that. Mendon coming away with a tough loss in that game, 44-41. Mendon got off to a slow start. They eventually bounced back. They had another lull in the third quarter. A couple lulls really cost them some poor shooting, uncharacteristic shooting performances. They only shot 15 for 52 from the field at 28%. 1 for 11 from 3, under 10%, obviously. Certainly credit to the Tappan Zee defense. I'm sure they had a lot to do with it, but sometimes it's just as they say, it's a make or miss league. It's a make or miss game. They had a couple shots at the end of the buzzer. They had like 2 or 3 good looks for a game tying 3. None of them could fall, and a really strong Mendon team, comes up just short in the state semifinals there.
Yeah, I think that was the thing with Pittsford all year is the fact that they could shoot the ball really, really well, and they were just a machine on that end of the floor. And hearing those statistics, it goes like, obviously, Tappan Zee deserves a lot of credit for what they did on the defensive end of the floor, but some days it's just not your night. And unfortunately, no one wants it to be in the state semifinal tournament. But just huge shout out and a congratulations to those young ladies. I know a lot of them are going to leave this year, but that's a great career that they had. I know some of them were there 4, 5, and even 6 years. I think a federation title for some of those ladies.
Yep.
So, a wonderful career. Don't believe that just because you came up short this last year that the career wasn't a success. Trust me, it was an honor just to watch them these past couple months, and I was only here for half of the year. So shout out to them for a marvelous career.
Yeah, 6 straight sectional titles for the Mendon program. Less than, I believe it ended up with 9 losses overall in that run. They had the federation title. They could have had 2 more state titles, obviously, we all know. And then this year, sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. 10 a.m. start on a Friday. All these girls, they're playing AAU as well. So it probably doesn't affect them as much as you would think. They're used to these 10 a.m. starts, but you never know how it's going to affect them. Who knows if that even played a part, but, shout out to Pittsford Mendon for that season that they had. We'll go to Class C next. East Rochester, a tough loss to Millbrook in the state semifinals, a 58-31 scoring margin. Millbrook ended up being the Class C champs overall. They ended up beating Newark Valley by 9 in the championship game. But it's kind of the Kaya Good situation here with East Rochester. They have their senior star in Sammy Lewis. Obviously, she's a great, talented, amazing player, multi-sport athlete. She does it all. But other than that, they're bringing everybody back. So, we have not seen the last of the Bombers and, the Eldridge sisters. They certainly, made their mark on this season where, they're going to be a Class C favorite in Section 5 again, off of the backs of those, the great underclassmen they have on that roster this year.
Oh yeah, when I spoke to the coach earlier this season for a story, he goes, "Yeah, Sammy Lewis is great, but this team also is, I think the foundation for him is set up for years to come. Lily Funk will be a senior next year, and she's going to take a step as a senior leader. So I'm sure that she's going to be phenomenal next year as well. But like you said, the Eldridge sisters, I think with a little bit more responsibility and obviously getting older, they'll put a Section 5 on notice next year. But first ever appearance in at the state tournament for them, well, state semifinals, excuse me, for that program. So no small feat, and it was fun to watch them play because they can turn it on in an instant. I mean, they can get up and down the court real quick, and once they're in transition, it's hard to stop them. So the Lady Bombers had a successful year, and it was, once again, I know I'm getting redundant, but it was an honor to cover them.
And then rounding things up on the girls' side, Waterloo, a semifinal win, 61-39. That wasn't too close against Putnam Valley. And then just a really tough championship game lost against Chalmont in the state championship game, 56-54, lost by just 2 points. They had a shot at the buzzer, didn't fall. Just a really strong team. We both got to see them a couple times. We both loved following their story. Their winning streak was impressive, and it just wasn't meant to be in the state championship game. So shout out to the Waterloo Indians for a great season. We'll talk about them a little bit more as we hand out some awards later in the show. But just another great season that came up. One game too short. Giovanna White Principio, Macy Carr, the seniors there. A great career that I'm sure they're not going to have too many regrets on this season.
No, and when the highlights were sent back from Albany, and I saw the end of that game, I'm like, man, that game could literally went either way. I mean, both teams were throwing haymakers after haymakers that last 2 minutes of the game. So, unfortunately, every game has a winner and a loser, and unfortunately, it was Waterloo, but they have nothing to hang their heads on. It was a great game, and unfortunately, that's just the way the ball bounces sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah, that is just the way the ball bounces. And then we did have one Section 5 team from boys basketball getting it done with a state championship, kind of a team that, we all kind of had circled as a state favorite throughout the season. Avoca Prattsburgh coming away with the win. Huvilton was the loser in that state championship game. 70-58 was the final score. Avoca Prattsburgh, they just had such an impressive season, undefeated. We'll talk about them a little bit later as well. But, just some of the, we were just, clipping through some highlights of that state championship game, looking for stuff to post. And, man, it was impressive. That was just a team that, as they proved in the season, they could play with just about anybody this year. And no team in Class D was nearly a match for them in this tournament.
Teams in Class D not supposed to run in the way that Avoca Prattsburgh can do. And, man, like you said, I was looking through those highlights. I'm like, which one do I pick? I only get 3, man. But you were able to watch them this year. I wasn't, but I mean, I'm sure that they were a fun team to watch, and congratulations for them to be able to, for some of those kids to end their career on top with a state title.
Yeah, certainly. And, we've kind of alluded to it a little bit. We're going to wrap up the winter sports season here. Put a bow on it here. Get ready for the spring sports coming up just around the corner. We're gonna hand out some awards in our final winter sports show of the season. We're gonna list a moment of the year. We got a game of the year, a player of the year, and a team of the year. Obviously there's some overlap here. Obviously there's many strong candidates, but these are some of the ones that we especially saw. We were able to get to. We saw the most. Just things that really stood out to us. That when we look back, years down the road, when we think about what happened here, these are going to be some of the things that really stand out to us. So we'll start off with Carl with our moment of the year in the winter sports season. Carl, what do you got for us?
For me, it's everything that every kid dreams of when you're in the backyard, doing a 3-2-1 and running around. It was the 3 buzzer beaters that I was able to see this past winter, and they all happened I saw 2 of them, and then Thad was in person for the other one. They all happened within a week of each other, which is kind of funny. But first starting off with Mike Morgan, Edison Tech, tie game. I think it was 49-49, I believe, against McQuaid. And Mike says, "Give me the rock and I'll do the rest." Dribbles across the paint. Little little pull up off the glass, and then everyone storms the floor, jumps on him. I'm like, yeah, I know he dreamed of that one. That's exactly how he drew it up when he was in the backyard. And the next one was Schrader, Alex DeRosa. They were down actually to Athena, so this is winner go home territory for the Warriors. A Warrior missed a 3-pointer to effectively win the game. No one boxed out DeRosa, gets the board, throws it back in for the game, and he does the I'm gonna run around this court and hopefully someone on this court can catch me. And I think it was a student section that ended up getting him. So shout out to that. And then the one that I wasn't able to catch, but it's the craziest one I think I've seen, and it was on social media for a bit, was Mason Giorgione, I believe is how you pronounce his name, from Rush Henrietta. Hilton gets a bucket on one end, and then clock's running. He gets it and pulls up from almost half, cashes it, wins the game to send the team to the AA finals. I mean, I don't think he ever drew that one up in the backyard. There's a lot of stuff you grew up in I don't think we
put his backyard wasn't big enough to draw that one out. Yeah. That's like at the end of playing horse, when you go out way out in the grass, be like, all right, here we go. This one's for to get back in this game. That's chucking it from there. That's not even on the pavement.
Yeah, like he said, you know what? Like there was no imagination that ever thought that was possible. So shout out to the Royal Comets for advancing to the finals for that one. Those 3 moments stood out for me because I mean we were all kids once, and we all dreamed of in the playoffs knocking down the buzzer beating shot to send our team to the next round, and those 3 kids especially were able to do so.
Yeah, and Thad, he talked to Mason after the fact. He thought they were down by 3. He thought he needed the 3, so he didn't even draw it up, 5 seconds before. He didn't know what he was doing. So, sometimes things just work out the right way. That boys basketball, especially the quarterfinals and the semifinals, that was just crazy. And that's going to lead directly into my moment of the year, which is a finish that, buzzer beaters happen all the time. I don't know if I'm ever going to see the finish that I saw, between Eastridge and Sutherland in the A2 semifinals. This game was a rock fight to start off. It was 15-12 at halftime, 15-12. And these are both really strong teams playing some good defense. It gets crazy in the final few minutes. 2 minutes left. Eastridge is up 33-31. Tyler Mullen knocks down a 3. Eastridge is down 1 with less than a minute left. Cordell Young, a ridiculous step back over 2 defenders. Next possession, Mullen hits another 3. So not only, we get great shots leading up to it, but then Eastridge, they're down by 2. They've got 5 seconds left. They get the missed free throw off the backboard. They go down. Wide open to Saquon Wester for a wide open 3. Goes up and shoots it. Gets stuck. Wedgie, as the kids are calling it these days. I could not believe what it, like this is, it happens, once or twice a season. You watch Section 5 hoops all around. You get it a couple times, whatever. This happened not only at the last second of the game. It was to win the game. It was in the state playoffs. Just all of this comes together for this memorable image of the ball just stuck on the rim. I just could not believe when it happened. Thad had actually been at the game earlier in the game to get a couple first quarter, second quarter highlights, things like that. I was able to race over there and I texted him like, I didn't get a buzzer beater because this was after all the buzzer beater stuff, but I got something that you've never seen before in your life. And nobody really had at that point. So, Eastridge did get a last chance look. They had the possession arrow, couldn't get anything going, but I just could not believe that, that sequence right there. It's probably something I'll never, ever see again, covering organized basketball, and certainly something I'm going to remember from this year.
I've never heard of that coming in a clutch situation. Never. Like, obviously you can't really like do it on purpose. So it's like when it happens, it's like, oh shucks. But when it happens in that moment, you're like, man, hold on, what are the basketball guys doing here to make it that happen in that exact moment? So when you told me about that and I ended up seeing it a little later, I'm like, he must, I don't know how that happened. And I'm sure everyone else in the crowd was thinking the same exact thing.
And also that, just the pure elation of Sutherland obviously winning that game. Eastridge had a ton of seniors on this team. They were heartbroken. It was probably the toughest I'd seen a team take a loss that entire year. Shout out to the Lancers. They had one heck of a season. They were the sectional champs in 2020. I know these guys were hoping to, plant their flag for Eastridge athletics as well, coming up just short, but a tremendous season as well. And certainly something I will never forget. Speaking of things that we'll never forget, things that will never be forgotten for a long time, we're going to go to our game of the year. Carl had the easiest layup to pick this one. Carl, take it away with your game of the year.
Yeah, without further ado, no theatrics to set it up. Victor Penfield, hockey. I got introduced to the sport of hockey in a way that I don't think I just got thrown into the deep end. You know how you usually, when you teach someone how to swim, baby steps up on the pool. No, go cover a sectional championship game and go cover a 9-round shootout game. And I mean, everything that
overtimes.
Oh yeah, forget the overtimes, and we gotta go to the shootout. Like it was nuts. I mean, everything that you want in a hockey game or just in a game in general, it had it. You got the star players stepping up and doing their things. Sean Smith got an amazing goal where he just takes the puck, go down the other way, and gets the goal. And then Colin McNamara gets 2, and then the one that he does get, his second goal was to send the game into overtime. So you got the star players doing their thing. And then how about the unsung heroes, the goalies stepping up? And OT and the shootouts as well. They did their things. Matt Pitts, Victor's goalie, is a sophomore. So we got the young guns stepping up, doing their thing. He had 47 saves. Dominic Andrade, the Penfield goalie, had 51. The theatrics, I mean, whatever you want, they got it. The kids out there after the game on the ice, I'm out there clearly cramping up. I mean, they out there literally left it all on the ice. Overtime wasn't enough. We go to a shootout, 9 rounds of it, and then the kid who scores the game-winning goal hadn't really got much ice time before, so the unsung hero once again stepping up, numbers called, doing his thing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was exhausted with a camera in my hand. I can't imagine the kids out there who are skating, the physical activity out there doing it. So shout out to them for literally leaving it all out there on the ice. I know we're essentially both Section 5 champs, but Victor eventually moved on to the next round. But those kids are going to be talking about that game for some time. I talked to both coaches after the game, and they agreed as well. So that is a game that I will not forget for some time, considering I was there about an hour and a half longer than I needed to be.
Yeah, and the thing about, hockey overtimes, typically, that first overtime or second, they're churning out the first and second lines over and over again. You want your best players on the ice for as much as you can. It drains them, and I know they had to go to their standing third, their fourth lines. It was just an onslaught. I'm just watching this thing on Twitter as it's coming in. I'm eventually watching the game on the varsity media stream afterwards. Just really a championship game. I was at one last year. It was Victor versus Pittsburgh. That went 3 overtimes. Ended with a scrum goal in the front. So maybe a little bit less heroic there, but you get the shootout winner, man. You just Class A hockey has produced some great results, and certainly we'll see what the hell they do for a follow-up next year.
I know Victor hopes that they're not a part of any of the game like that again, because I feel like 2 years in a row of that is enough for everyone's health, part of from the Victor family for sure.
Yeah, my game of the year, mine came in the regular season. Just a great, sequence of events to set up this game. You get the Class C #1 team in the entire state. You get the Class D team #1 in the entire state. Avoca Prattsburgh versus Lions. Lions is in our viewing area. They're kind of fringe. Avoca Prattsburgh is not, but no matter what, we circled this game on our calendar. We were like, we are going to be at that game. We were, and it lived up to the hype. Avoca Prattsburgh came away with that one, 82-79. You could certainly say it springboarded them on their way to their sectional championship run. I know they had a great fight in their Wheatland against Wheatland Chili in the, I believe it was Wheatland Chili, the sectional championship game. Carl shaking his head up and down, so I know I got that one right. Just a back and forth. It was a track meet. This is 82-79. No overtimes, no nothing. This is just teams. They were grabbing the ball out of the basket. They were chucking it down the other way. This was Victor. This wasn't, in one of our, our beloved shoe boxes here in Section 5, where, your 3-point line is basically the half court line. This was just basketball at its finest. You had Avoca Prattsburgh, Sori DeVoe stepping up, Hayden Abbott, Pacey Hopkins, Lions, Jacob Side scoring 31 points. He was doing everything in the fourth quarter for them. he was doing everything he could. He had 15 of his team's 22 points in the fourth quarter to try and get it done for Lions there. Eventually it was Caleb Johnson hitting the clutch 3-pointer under 2 minutes to go. That put Avoca Prattsburgh up by 1. They would not relinquish that lead. Avoca Prattsburgh ended on winning the state championship game. Lions came up a little short. They had some injuries down the stretch, which certainly hindered them. But that was just, to make that much of an impact as a, regular season small school boys basketball game, certainly a worthy, winner for my game of the year here.
Oh, 100%. I know that you were talking about that game, I want to say a week or so prior. And for me, I saw that Lions statistics. I saw that they were getting up and down the court. So I'm like, all right, they're going to put up some numbers. And then Primetime was talking about Avoca Prattsburgh. I'm like, all right, let's see what the hype is. And boy, did they show up and show out, did their thing. I mean, 82 points is nuts. I mean, in a high school game with no OT. Whew. And I've seen Lions play. It's not because of a lack of defense. That's just a team those are just teams that just getting up and down the floor, and
that was just good on good.
Yeah. Yeah. So man, I wish I was in the gym for that one for sure.
Moving on to our player of the year, Carl. Plenty of worthy candidates. We had a lot of state champs. We had a lot of great performers this year. Who do you got as your players of the year?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a bunch of nominees and a bunch of players who are more than deserving of this. But for me, going to get away from the hardwood and go over to the mat. Jaden Scott from Rush Henrietta and Rocco Camalachi from Hilton. I think the story with those two guys is unique, and it's a redemption story, so to speak, a little bit. They're both seniors and have been to the state tournament several times before. I think 4 for each, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 4 for each, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the 4th, and this time around, they didn't really make it close. Rocco down at States had 2 tech falls in his run, which is kind of unheard of to get 2 tech falls at the state tournament, which goes to show you how far and beyond he was with the rest of his competition. And then Jaden Scott also was able to do his thing as well and bring home his first state title. Reading up on Jaden Scott's story a little bit, as an 8th grader, he did get to the state tournament and got to the first place match. But the guy that he lost to was technically in the Catholic school league, so he wasn't the state champion. He was a federate. It was a weird technical thing where state champion, but he didn't want to claim it as such. So finally,
he didn't raise up his arm at the end. So while he was technically a state champ, you knew that wasn't good enough in his books.
Exactly, and for him to come back 4 years later and do his thing, it's just good to see all the work that those 2 kids put in and for it to pay off. Jaden's headed down to Chapel Hill to be a Tar Heel next fall, and Rocco is going to he's an Ivy Leaguer, smart kid, and he can wrestle as well. So shout out to him for that. He's going to Princeton. I don't think it gets much better than that. So shout out to those 2 kids for doing their thing and leaving their careers on top.
Yeah, and we got the highlights sent back to us from Albany. Just the pure, wrestling's it has one of the best celebration moments in all of high school sports in general. Just the the hero shots of Jaden Scott and Rocco. Just the pure, you could see how much they wanted this. I talked to them both before. You knew how much they wanted this, and for them to come up when the the lights were shot, the lights shine the brightest. They had won other titles. They had been across the country. They were nationally ranked. I think they were both like top 20 and the wrestling rankings, the national rankings. But to finally do it, win that state championship senior year, they were working so hard for it. Yeah, worthy candidates for player of the year. My player of the year, she did. We mentioned before, she did not come up with a state championship game. She came oh so close. I'm going to go with Giovanna White-Principio out of Waterloo girls basketball. It is probably easier to take over a game, certainly in high school basketball, as a guard. You got the ball in your hands all the time. You're making things happen. 3-pointers are worth a little bit more than 2 if you guys weren't aware. But for Giovanna White-Principio, every time I've watched her play, she is just a dominant force down low. She is so destructive on defense. In their state qualifier game against Mid Lakes, other team didn't get a field goal the entire fourth quarter. In their Class D or in their Class B state semifinal game, I think we talked before that it was they took care of business. They did at the end. I think they scored the last 17 points of that game. She just affects everything on the floor. She's got talented players around him: Morgan Caraballo, Macy Carr, Jasmine Lewis. But without Gia White-Principio, she is the straw that stirs the drink. She had 15.6 points per game this year, 7.7 rebounds, almost 2 blocks, almost 2 steals per game. And I remember, I believe it was the Far West Regional game you were at, Carl. They made it their mission to shut her down, and they basically, threw out their entire game plan, and you just picked them apart. You can talk a little bit about that, but I just loved watching Gia White-Principio play all season long.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like you said, their game plan was, all right, we're not going to let her beat us. All right, cool. I'm not going to be selfish and act as if I'm above the team. I'm going to, dish it out, double comes. Going to hit. I think Addison Bree took over and I think had like 20 points in that game. I mean, phenomenal pick, and she was a phenomenal player. And to go back on the defensive end of the floor, like you said, unless you played it on a court, and this even happened in pickup ball, where someone behind you, if you get beat, there's someone behind you that's going to be a deterrent back there. You don't understand how valuable that is. And anybody who's watched Waterloo this year, all right, good luck getting past their guards, who are very talented, by the way. But if you did, good luck trying to finish over her too. And she was a deterrent all year at the rim, and part of the reason why they made the run that they did this year. Phenomenal player, and it's going to me as someone who loves watching the game is going to be unfortunate to see her move on to the next level. But man, I have fun covering her for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the guard play. They press all the time. They're aggressive out front. Like you said, you can't do that unless if you have an anchor down and back. She just opened that that team up so much for her. So I just feel like watching her play. So making her my player of the year. We had several other good candidates that we could have picked from as well. Kaya Good, Daly Frazier, and do it done for Pittsburgh diving. Damani Barley, of course. For East. Plenty of great candidates, but those are some of the few that stood out for us certainly as well. And going to our final awards, another one where we have many great candidates that we could have picked from here. Carl, your team of the year in the Section 5 winter sports season.
I'm going to keep mine relatively short because I think the answer that AJ has is actually compelling and a great one to hear. Mine is the Bishop Kearney Lady Kings. You guys had an amazing year this year. You had 2 seniors, and one of which was Kaya Good, who is going to move on to the next level next year. I think she's going to Lemoyne, so shout out to her. Great team. All in all, they dominated in and out of Section 5. Like you said, they took some lumps early on in the year, and from there, I don't want to say put it on cruise control, but they did the opposite. They put their foot on the gas and never let up. I mean, anyone who's watched them play this year, they're exciting to watch. I mean, they literally, I know it's not 94 feet in high school, but every inch of that floor, they're going to make sure that you work for it on both ends of the floor. Exciting to watch, and I'm sure that they'll be in the running for Team of the Year for quite some time.
Yeah, we could, the name, it's the Bill Russell Trophy, the Kobe, this might end up being like the Bishop Kearney, Team of the Year, winter sports. We will see. But as you mentioned, for my Team of the Year, I'm going a little bit off script. I actually, I have not covered, we didn't really cover this sport that much. It's tough to get out to Nordic skiing. I am going with the Brighton Bruins girls Nordic skiing team. This is a team that just dominated every team in New York State throughout the entire season. In their individual championships, Kate Anzalotti, a junior, she took first place by over a minute. She just destroyed the field, and that is pretty darn good for Nordic skiing. The girl that she beat in second place, also on Brighton, Amelia Jordan, took second place in there. They won, they had the top 2 spots in the individual thing, in the individual championship. They won the relay championship. They won the state title. It wasn't even close. This is a team that I believe has won 5 straight sectional titles. They won the state championship in 2019. They won the state championship in 2020. And they didn't have it in 2021. They won it again in 2022. So they've won 3 in a row there. I have not gotten really next year, Kate Anzalotti, she's a junior this year. She's going to be a senior. I think I might have to make my way out to the Nordic ski, the course. They're not really slopes because I think they're pretty flat there. I have covered some Nordic skiing in the past. There's a little bit of undulation, at least where I covered it in Minnesota. And it's not even the fun skiing one. This is the log one. This is the grueling one. So to be that good for that long, mad props to the Brighton Bruins girls Nordic skiing team. They have quite the program there, and I'm gonna give them the crown as my team of the year.
I can't ski, so when I'm hearing domination like that, I'm in awe because I can't even do this for 1 foot, and they're doing it for a duration, a period of time. So shout out to those ladies for being able to do it, not just capable, but at a high level and dominating at it. Because someone like me who would love to go out there and at least try without embarrassing myself, you guys are clearly really darn good at it. So if you want to ever show me how to do it, please, because I want to be half as good as you ladies are.
Yeah, I haven't tried skiing. Maybe we'll have to get some like snowshoes and go out there. Like that's just basically walking. We could do that. But yeah, congratulations to Brighton. Some other worthy candidates off the top of our heads, obviously any of the girls basketball teams that went out there. Avoca, Prattsburgh, we talked about them as well. Newark girls bowling won the state championship as well. I'm sure we're probably, there were some great swimming performances. Canandaigua and Pittsburgh both had great seasons with great teams. But those are just some of the, the ones that stood out to me. A lot of talent here in Section 5 this season.
Oh, 100%. It was an honor. Week in and week out, it was something different flavors. Obviously, there were some cream of the crop teams, but there are also some teams who may not have been at the top of the standings, but had some players that were outstanding. And when you walked in the gym and pulled out the camera, you know that something was going to pop off and something was going to shake. So for me, it was my first first winter being here, and it was great to see the different sports and the different personalities and different ADs and and this, that, and the third. So I can't wait for the spring season. I know y'all told me winter was cool, but y'all said the lacrosse here is pretty good as well. So y'all, the winter season left on a high note. Let's see if lacrosse can, match it, if not, exceed it. So we'll see. But I can't wait. And it was, once again, winter season was great. Shout out to all those athletes.
And definitely, we got the spring sports season. We got games tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday. We got lacrosse games Friday night. We'll be out there first thing right away. Technically, we still got a little bit of winter sports to clean up. We got the Ronald McDonald All-Star Games this Saturday out at Rutch Henrietta. We'll be out there. But yeah, a great winter sports season. We love covering every minute of it. We can't wait to do it for the spring. Once again, state championships back in spring. It's been 2 years, so I know they're hungry as well. We'll get a lot of those great storylines. We are going to be off next week on the podcast. We're going to wait for the spring sports season to gear up a little bit. Take 1 week off, and then we'll have our initial reactions on, the lacrosse, the baseball, the softball, everything we got going on. So we will see you in 2 weeks' time. We thank everybody for watching. We love all the interest we're getting, the conversations we're getting going. You can watch us on Spotify. You can watch us on Apple Podcasts, RochesterFirst.com, and YouTube. We appreciate everybody who's for watching. Let us know if you disagree with our picks. If you have any more candidates, we'd love to, hear some of those as well. But we thank you guys all for listening. We will see you next time in 2 weeks on the High School Huddle podcast. It is time now to break the huddle. For Carl Jones, I'm AJ Feldman. Thank you very much for listening and watching. We will see you